Hello, this is Brian Scuttle with Sonic Cinema. I am organizing my office, partially because I've needed to, partially because I have a virtual concert of some of my music that I'm doing Monday night over Facebook Live. If you're on Facebook, you can look it up. It's Classical Cinema Virtual Concert, and you can hopefully join me and listen to some of the music that I've done over the years. This, however, is going to be about a series of films that I have finally had the opportunity to watch after not really watching them over the years. I'm really kind of disappointed by that it's taken this long with the end of the franchise to get started. Not really a franchise, more of a series, but it is it's one of my favorite series I think I've seen in the past few years come up. It is the Trip series from director Michael Winterbottom, starring Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon as they go across Europe, tracing the steps of famous writers and famous literary figures, as well as taking in some delicious food and making jokes, especially when it comes to impersonations. The last film in the series, The Trip to Greece, was offered as a possibility to screen from IFC Films, so I wanted to take it, and before I could do that, though, I had to watch the rest of the Trip series, so I went through that, and I got it done pretty quickly in about a week. And it's really gratifying to be able to say that I've watched that series. Now, if you haven't seen Tristram Shandy, A Cock and Bull Story, that was Winterbottom, Coogan, and Brydon as well. It's from 2006. It's really wonderful. I've never seen the Trip TV series that this is based on, but the movies are really genuinely entertaining, and some of the strongest laugh generators I've seen in recent years. There's always something very funny or very delicious happening on screen. There are some absolutely beautiful visuals that we see as Coogan and Brydon go through these different countries. They go through Great Britain in the first one. They go to Italy in the second one. Spain in the third, and then Greece to close out the series. One of the things that's really interesting about the Trip series is that the first two are very much in the same formula, except in the second one in Italy, Brydon is the one who's asked to go on like a travel log to talk about Italian cuisine, and he invites Steve Coogan to join him. It was reversed in the original. And then as the franchise goes on, especially with the Trip to Spain, which I think is the least funny one of the series, but it's still really entertaining. And one of the things that does that's so interesting is the fact that we see some depth to Steve Coogan's character, as well as in particular with his relationship with his son Joe. And Coogan and Brydon are essentially playing elevated versions of themselves, heightened versions of themselves. You see biographical flourishes come into the characters, but ultimately they're playing sort of more egotistical versions of themselves, and that's one of the more entertaining aspects. That's where a lot of the comedy comes from, as they're going through and comparing their careers and what have you. And the Trip to Greece and the Trip to Spain, Trip to Greece is probably my favorite as far as the comedy part of it, and probably my favorite in general, because the emotional aspect of it and the ending of the Trip to Greece is really moving, actually. And the way it leaves it, and the way it leaves the series, it's something that I'd heard about this series, Never got into it for some reason, even though I love Tristram Shandy. Back in 2006, I thought was wonderful. And Coogan's performance in that was one of my favorites of that year. But now that I've seen the Trip series, I'm really looking forward to. I hope that Winterbottom, Coogan, and Brydon continue to collaborate. Beyond this, I'm kind of curious to see what they might do next in this vein. If they don't, I mean, it's always fun to watch Coogan and Brydon. And Brydon I'm not as familiar with, but seeing him recently in Blind by the Light was really fun and entertaining. And so I highly recommend the Trip series if you haven't watched it. They're all available on streaming services as far as for rental. Highly recommend the rent. And the Trip to Greece is coming out on the 22nd of May. And my review will be coming out on the 18th. It doesn't look like I'm going to get any interviews, unfortunately. Although if that changes, you'll certainly be able to see that on my YouTube channel, the Sonic Cinema Podcast YouTube channel, as well as embedded with my review for the Trip to Greece. But Trip to Greece, it's grateful that I have IFC screeners to be able to watch during this time because it's kept me really busy. And it's also given me a chance to watch some really wonderful films. And The Trip to Greece might be one of my favorite films of the year. And that's it for me right now. More for the Sonic Cinema podcast and Sonic Cinema in general. Again, if you're on Facebook, check out Classical Cinema Virtual Concert. I hope to see you online on Monday night at 8 o'clock. And that's it from me. Bye.